Journal article review. Presentation of relevant research on the water transportation industry. But before that, let's define water transportation. Water transportation plays a major role in the tourism development. Most travelers traveling to any part of the world need to go from one location to another easily, and in order to do so, travelers need reliable and efficient transportation service to bring them to any of your desired locations. Water transportation can be defined as the movement of people from one place to another via water. Various islands are becoming more and more popular to the tourists from around the world. Therefore, water transportation is important in tourism industry. Example of water transportation in the tourism industry include cruises, yacht, speedboats, ferries, sailboats, and etc. But the water transportation which is commonly used are the high-capacity ferries. The research title of an article we have chosen is Food-Induced Disruption of an Inland Waterway Transportation System and Regional Economic Impacts. The first thing that we are going to discuss is the issue. What is this about? The research article discussed about the economic loss experienced by a certain regions in the United States due to the disruption of waterway transportation services. The article covers the huge impacts of the natural disasters on navigable waterways services, as well as the losses quantified in the aftermath of one disaster happened, which flooding in spring 2019 that caused Oklahoma's only inland navigable waterway to close. In this research, the researchers analyzed the impacts brought by the flood to the state's congressional districts. Their study found the expected or estimated economic impact of it in terms of losses of jobs, the direct and indirect economic losses, which direct economic losses refer to the damage of infrastructures that need to be repaired, and indirect economic losses that refers to the costs borne because of the delayed goods that need to be shipped. So this is the Oklahoma's flood spring in 2019. The next thing that we'll talk about is the significance of the research. Why is the topic important? The topic is immensely important given the fact explained in the study that a navigable transportation like water Transpo cannot operate if there is a natural disaster or whether it's not in its good condition, and the possible negative effects that will happen if this type of transportation is disrupted. The study is truly significant because its purpose is to enlighten every reader regarding the sad issues about water transportation services, not only in tourism industry but in global economic impact. The study well explained the role of water transportation. It is not only used for attraction purposes but also in trading, leisure, and other business purposes. Let's move on to the approach of the study. What was done? To assist in order to create a solution for this study, first the authors estimated the impact of the TPOC or the tool support of CATOSA and OKMKARN, which is the Oklahoma's McClellan-Kerr-Arkansas River Navigation System closure caused by the 2019 flood on the economies of Oklahoma's congressional districts. MKARN is the largest inland waterway system in the U.S. Methods of the study. The analysis uses impact analysis for planning or in-plan data and the multi-regional input-output or MRIO to determine the economic distribution of the Oklahoma's water transportation sector to the state's economy, and 2. An analysis of the direct, indirect, and induced economic impacts of the system's closure. The result of the study. What happened or implications on practice. The contribution of water transportation sector to Oklahoma's economy is stated to be the employment of 38 jobs, which is equivalent to $9.6 million in industrial input and $2.2 million in value added. The indirect and induced employment TIO and value added generated from water transportation are mainly in the natural gas and petroleum, services, other transportation, retail trade, fire, and government sectors. The reason these sectors had the largest indirect and induced effects are because of the size of their transactions with water transportation. Conclusion: the significance of the water transportation industry's contribution to the Oklahoma economy is evident in the employment and TIO multipliers. For every job in the water transportation industry, an additional 3.88 total jobs are generated across all regions. All in all, regional impacts has determined. Conclusion of the study: what was left unanswered? According to the authors, what remains unknown is whether increasing the waterway's resilience to extreme flooding events through continued maintenance would have shortened the closure period. More frequent waterway maintenance and repair of the waterway would require fiscal budgeting through legislation or increased use of the waterway's transportation services by agricultural, mining, and manufacturing industries. An obstacle a government faces in maintaining a public good and sustaining level of service provided is household and other stakeholders' willingness to pay for the good. Toward this end, future analysis could collect primary data on waterway beneficiaries, knowledge of the Oklahoma's McClellan-Arkansas River navigation system, use and existence value. Future analysis could also focus on estimating the flood impacts using a computable general equilibrium model, which would allow for greater flexibility in the economic modeling assumptions, such as sourcing behavior. And that's all for our presentation about relevant research in water transportation industry. Thank you for watching and listening.